Thank you, Claire. It's a great privilege to be here and talking to you about a topic that I'm incredibly passionate about, and this passion developed when I was about 15. We won't go through the whole story this afternoon, but let's just start with saying that thank you so much for this opportunity to share this great passion of evidence that I have with all you here today. So I want to start off by acknowledging that we're meeting on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and echo Claire's sentiment that we pay our respects to elders past, present, and most important, those that are emerging. So I thought we'd start with a little hands up activity. I want to find out the experience that we're sitting on in this room. So can you put your hand up if you've been in education from 0 to 5 years? All right, from 5 to 10? 10 to 15? 15 to 20? 20 to 25? 25 to 30? Wow. 30 to 35? Dare I say it? 35 to 40? Woo! 40 to 45? Let's stop there. All right. And you're exactly right to clap. That's the whole point. So when we're talking about, that's why we say evidence-informed, because you as educators bring so much to the table, and we want you to bring all that experience that you have, whether it be 5 years, whether it be 40 years. And collectively within this room, think of the experience that we are sitting upon. And you bring that and you pair it with high quality external evidence in order to increase your impact in the classroom. And that's why we all got into education, was to improve the lives of students. And I know that for ourselves as an organisation, Evidence for Learning, and also at AVID, that passion most centrally sits with those students that are most in need, and what a privilege it is to be part of that. So at Evidence for Learning, we're really all about how can we make evidence as accessible as possible to you, the profession. So we do this by building, sharing, and encouraging use of evidence. We build through our Learning Impact Fund, which pairs a program of promise with an independent evaluator. What we've done, we've published this year 3 randomised controlled trials. This is work headed up by another Associate Director, Dr. Pauline Ho. And they have been trials 2 on literacy, 2 on mathematics and 1 on literacy. Another key part of our work is sharing evidence. What we have there is our Teaching and Learning Toolkit, and I'll walk you through that this afternoon. Within that, it's a meta-analysis of 35 different approaches in education that's provided free to you, the profession, and updated every 2 years by a global literature review. It provides information on cost, on months of impact, and on evidence security, which is the depth and breadth of beautiful evidence that sits underneath every one of those approaches. Another key part of our work is the sharing of evidence, and that's what I'm doing here today. So it says 160 up here, but we're really at 161 as of right now. So in sharing events across Australia, I'm very fortunate to have spoken to over 7,500 educators in the past 3 years. And also within this, we share through our guidance reports, which provide really practical information around key topics of interest to educators. So here are some of our partnerships across Australia. Most importantly, you can see AVID up there on the slide. Shout out to Claire. All right, so the Teaching and Learning Toolkit, what is this all about? it acts as an introduction to educational research, and it's really there to help and guide evidence-informed decision-making at the school level. We have the 3 key markers of cost. We're not selling programs, but it's indicated by the dollar sign. So the higher the amount of dollar signs, the higher the amount of money to implement that type of program. The second part is the security of the evidence, and that's the locks. And some people have called them handbags, but they're not. They're definitely locks, all right? I know they look a little bit like handbags. And that's, so the depth and breadth. So the higher the amount of evidence, the larger the amount of padlocks. The third is the months of impact, and that's a translation from an effect size. And I'll walk you through that. I love statistics, so everyone get excited. Yeah, I'm feeling it. All right. Oh, I like the little call out. I don't know who that was. All right, here is the Teaching and Learning Toolkit. So here are the 35 different approaches. This is underpinned by over 10,000 research studies. And the numbers move up and down. Do we have any outdoor adventure learning people? Any hands up for outdoor adventure? Yes, the back there. Exciting news for you right there. We move from plus 3 months to plus 4 months in that. So the numbers go up and down based on the incorporation of new meta-analyses. All right, so let's have a look at the site that we built in collaboration with AVID that's mapped to your teaching and learning framework. So what we did here, we mapped the 35, Claire and I sat down and mapped the 35 different approaches in the toolkit to your framework to make this as accessible as possible to yourselves in working with the AVID. And what we can say, if we have a look at one of the approaches, if we dive down and have a look at feedback. So here's feedback. It has a low cost, has a high-ish evidence security, and it has an amazing impact on students' learning. Plus 8 months of learning over a 12-month period. And what the front page of the toolkit provides you with, it provides you with information about what is it, how effective is it, what are the costs, and then what should I consider as probably the most practical part. Tomorrow in my workshop, those of you that have the pleasure of joining me tomorrow, we'll be working through this in greater detail and you'll be hands-on with a toolkit. Oh, this is my favourite part. Okay, now we've just dived into the references. The references there, we have effect size table, and it's a mean weighted effect size based on the standard error. It's probably too much detail, but I love it. With standard error, which is a reflection of how many students in each of the studies. Okay, this is work headed up by Professor Steve Higgins out of Durham University. And we've taken that beautiful effect size of 0.63 and we've translated that into 8 months of learning progress because we think that that's a more accessible way for you to think about learning in your classrooms. Good, getting nods, fantastic. Great. And what we also have is links out to all the meta-analyses that underpin that mean weighted effect size. Then what we did, because we wanted to contextualise this further for Australia, we collaborated with Melbourne Graduate School of Education, and what they did together, they pulled together the research for the past 6 years across those 35 different approaches in looking at both qualitative and quantitative studies to provide an idea of what's actually occurring in Australian classrooms for those 35 approaches. What we found in doing that was there were some approaches that had a lot of Australian and New Zealand research. So for example, from arts participation, we saw a lot of research. In feedback, we didn't see a lot in Australia. So what we did then, we collaborated with AITSL and we produced the AITSL feedback implementation materials, which provide even further in-depth analysis into how can you implement feedback successfully in your classroom to improve students' learning to the greatest degree. So this is our Learning Impact Fund. This is where we're building evidence. Here are the randomised controlled trials that we've produced so far this year in conjunction with academic partners. So we have mini-lit, quick smart numeracy, and Thinking Maths and Resilient Families, excitedly, based here in Victoria, is due to be released in 1 week. So this is the type of reports that we produce. We publish the 100-page research evaluation report, but then we publish a 2-page summary for educators, because I'm an educator, I've been in the classroom and I know how pressed you are for time, and 2 pages seems like about the right amount. What we have here is, you can see again the same indicators that we have in our teaching and learning toolkit. And so looking at Thinking Maths, we saw a small positive impact across all schools, but we saw that that was increased in the primary setting to the amount of 2 months' worth of additional learning. This is a program that's focusing on growing metacognition in one's learners, and also in focusing in on teachers and how they provide feedback to their students. And what we can also see, which I know is very relevant to this audience, is the school card holders, so those that are from backgrounds that are surrounded by disadvantage, were advantaged by the program disproportionately positively in comparison to the other groups. So that's exciting. This is a homegrown program that was grown up in South Australia, and we measured the impact of it in conjunction with ACR, with over 6,000 students involved. Then what we do, we provide a snapshot of, okay, that's the headline figures, but how is this actually working in the classroom? Within this, we can see that there was significant impact on various different indicators. So the key ones being pedagogical content knowledge, and the other on professional identity and self-efficacy of the teachers. So we know that this program had an impact on that, and then some of that was passed on to their practices within the classroom, and a small amount went on to influence the students' learning. What we also have is our guidance reports, and they're freely available. We've published one on implementation, and then we've also published one on the most effective use of teaching assistants in Australian classrooms. And we're just about to release 2 more before the end of the year, one on parental engagement, what's the most effective way to engage parents to improve students' learning, and the other on metacognition and self-regulation. I have time for questions, but probably... Any questions from the floor?
Tanya, we have your contact details.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No.
So I'm really grateful, thank you,
Pleasure.
for being here. The evidence behind the work that we do is really important. And as teachers press for time, there's a lot of things thrown at us, and things that sometimes departments drop in on us that they want us to do. Without an evidence-informed base, we're never really sure whether we should invest the time to get our heads around this next bright, new, shiny thing. But what you've done is given us 35 approaches to teaching that are worth investing in. You've turned data into something kind of sexy, and it gives us a place to start when we're busy and trying to figure out what to do next. So I thank you for your work. We are going to continue working together. The fact that there is an AVID toolkit is a validation of both AVID and the approaches that Tanya's talking about. Thank you for that. And we look forward to continuing to work with the schools to keep building out the evidence about why we invest in AVID and why it makes a difference. So thank you very much.
Thank you.